Hi, everybody. I'm Matthew Miller. I am coming to you from the new Red Hat Boston office. This is our new podcast room. It's pretty awesome. You can see it's still partly under construction. And we have got like a HD camera and things. The lighting, I think I'm going to need like a makeup artist if I keep doing these things from here. But yeah, anyways, I am the Fedora project leader. This is a Fedora council meeting where we do a sub-project report where basically once a month or so, we get one of the teams working on some part of Fedora to give a presentation and tell us and the Fedora community what's going on with their stuff. So in this case, it is Fedora marketing, and we have Eduard Lucena and Brian Profit here with a presentation on that. And with that, I will turn it over to Eduard, who is here in the face form of a slide deck. His face will come back later after the presentation, I think.
Hi, I'm Eduard Lucena. I'm from Chile. I'm working with marketing since last year, and we're going to present the state of the subproject of Fedora marketing, helping with my friend Brian Profit. Our point will be we're going to this agenda. We are going to talk about the current state of the marketing team. We're going to talk about the 2017 goals, what we are pointing to do this year. And some of the points are going to identify audiences, the messaging we are going to share with the whole project, what channels we are working to. We are going to work to talk about the content we are developing from all the project. We have some questions to the council, and we have space to respond to the question that council can have for us. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. I just muted everybody else, so the focus is on you. We're here.
Oh, okay. No, it's just because it's received from our message.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay. So,
do you want people to jump in with things, or would you rather questions at the end, or how do you want to do that?
As you wish. We can go to question just when you came from. No problem with that.
Okay, I'll let people control their own microphones then.
Okay. So for the current state, we have 5 main points to talk about. The first one is the magazine independence. From August of last year, the magazine is kind of independent from marketing. It still depends on us, but they have their own meeting for discuss the articles they are going to be published. They depend on us only for infra problems, problems with the platform or bigger issues. But for the editorial and articles, they are kind of independent.
Yeah, I think that's a really good move, because as they started to become very successful, it's sort of overwhelmed all of the rest of the marketing group. So it was a good move to break them off like that.
Yeah, one of the main problems we had before is the time slots from the meetings. Magazine was consuming too much time, and we don't have time to discuss other things. The other point on the project is the communication. We are going through really successful campaigns with social media through Facebook and Twitter. Google Plus is just always is an underdog in the social media. I use it too much, but not too many people use it. And the other thing that is really, really becoming big with the communication channels is the Telegram. We have, I think, 6 Telegram channels. One from diversity, one from the whole project, one from Latam, one from Brazil, one from Russia. I think there is one in Chinese, I think. The main chat room has almost 1,000 people already. We are bridging with IRC. Also, there is an initiative to use something called Matrix or something like that. I'm not pretty sure about how it works. Riot I think, is the application. that is bridging to IRC as well. So I think in terms of communication, we are having more communication with final users, with end users, and having better support. Before that, we were working a lot with ask.fedora.org, but not too many people like to write in that way. So I think the Telegram move was one of our successful ideas.
So how active is that? Like, how many messages per day do those 1,000 users generate?
Well, on nights I put my phone in silent because it's all day clicking and clicking. I don't have stats. I think something in the ComOps project was working on stats for Telegram. I'm not pretty sure. We are just promoting a lot of things.
We can get those from the IRC bridge probably if we don't have them other ways.
Really anecdotally, since like Sunday, I had about 1,800 messages.
That's quite a lot. And also anecdotally, what's the general tone there? Is it mostly positive? Is it chatty? Is it on topic?
Like every channel in Telegram, it gets off topic a lot. But normally we are doing support, helping people to install, to solve problems. Yeah, mostly support. I take the channel also to promote the magazine articles and that kind of things.
So we've had some problems, including some, a whole bunch of council tickets about IRC support channel and hostile users and basically problems with behavior in the channels. Do we see that on Telegram, or is the audience kind of different?
We see it once. Now we have 6 admins in the Telegram channel, but the audience now is really peaceful. We don't go through flame wars about, I don't know, text editors of preference or media players of preference. But it's kind of normal. It's not being hostile. And people is asking about other distros, about Ubuntu or Debian, and we try to not flame them, just to direct it to the right channels, or to make them know that we are in the Fedora channel. So.
You can ask other distros, but your answers may be biased if you ask them here. All right, thanks.
Yeah, I think we have a girl called, he goes by Kohane, like his handler in Telegram. I think she's part of Famsco too. She's doing a pretty good job in the Telegram channel. She's being really active and answering everything, being welcome to the new users and the new people that came to the channel. Also, Justin is doing a great work there. And right now, I think this Telegram channel is our best communication channel to end users.
Interesting. That's good to know. Thanks.
Yeah. The other point we are going through is the activity per release. We just last week we sent the announcement for the beta release. It was kind of last-minute changes. I didn't like that, but we are doing pretty well. We changed the focus of this announcement this time. I think it was requested by you, Matthew, because we are not just showing a list of the points.
Yes,
sorry.
Thanks. I appreciate that a lot. I think that came out really well.
Yeah, and I thought that that a lot of news pages, web pages, and news channels were just copying the text of the announcement. So I think it worked very well. Another thing we are trying to work out is the wiki cleanup and update. The wiki is a mess, really. It requires a lot of work because there is a lot of outdated pages. So the work is really hard then. So I get the senior editor batch last week because I was just cleaning up a lot of wiki pages.
Yeah, that's a problem across the project. I know other people in the council have heard me. I think we need to have a plugin that makes pages decay and turn to like old pirate map pages after a year or so of unuse. I'm hoping that the docs project, the short documentation thing that they're working on, will actually be helpful for a lot of the stuff that is currently on wiki pages and be a more maintainable and a better presentation of that stuff in the next year or so. Stay tuned for that.
Okay. The other thing we were working on is the Firefox Bookmark. It's just a little package that is included in the release that point to the main Fedora web pages, like the wiki, like the magazine, like the com blogs, like the what can you do for Fedora page. We just take the package and test it every release. It's going very well. The talking points is just the list of that we share with the ambassadors of the new things in each version of Fedora we are releasing, each spin or each lab or everything that is new in each release. For the beta, it went very well, but some working groups didn't respond, like the KDE group didn't respond about the talking points. It was a little hard to go to server also.
Hey, KDE people, it's frustrating when you don't respond to these kind of things and then complain that KDE isn't being promoted by the project. We would love to promote KDE. It's a cool subproject that is an important part of our whole Fedora community. So get yourselves included. That's what this is here for.
Yeah. Well, we try to reach them both by meeting and by the mailing list, but they never respond. I don't know what more can we do. Maybe infiltrate the working group. That can be the next step. The other activity we do per release is take off the screenshots. Actually, from alpha and beta, we didn't have screenshots properly. Just once, maybe two, that was taken for the magazine release announcement. For the final release, we have 3 volunteers that work with the screenshots. I don't know if it's okay that alpha and beta doesn't have screenshots.
I think it's probably okay. Beta screenshots would be nice. I guess we're not having alphas anymore, so that relieves some of the work. But yeah, for the final release, there are some reporters who do quick articles on here's a new release, and they really appreciate us having ready-made screenshots. Other people like the opposite; they like to go through and make their own. But having them available is definitely very helpful.
Also, we are just taking screenshots for English language. There is another project. Maybe I can talk about later at the end. There is a project inside Ambassadors that is releasing like a user book. I'm helping the guy translating the book to Spanish. We are taking some screenshots at least in Spanish is one, and Ukrainian I think is the other one. I don't know if in Ukraine they speak Russian or Ukrainian. But we are taking screenshots in several languages. I think we can at least take, I don't know, the 3 top languages used in Fedora and take screenshots in the languages.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, we have some proposals that we are working on. We are working on press kit. The press kit is something that I think it was done in the past. Now it's not being done. We want to do press kit. It's just like create more content or short content that we can share with media, like I don't know, technological blogs or something. They don't have to just copy and paste from the wiki page or from the release announcements, but having a repository of media that we can share and they can go directly there, maybe is better. I don't know. It was a proposal that we are working on.
Yeah, I like that too.
Also, we was working on discussing and fighting and flaming war and everything about having audience-oriented talking points. I think it's hard because there is a lot of parts of the project working on audience-oriented campaigns, because it's hard to go through all the people with one message. The message is not the same for people that do science, for people that program, for people that just want to see a movie, and we want to go through that. We are trying to separate the talking points and doing per audience. The main problem we are facing here is that there is a lot of audience and we don't know where to focus properly. Because if we take, for example, the packages, we have groups in the DNF groups, but they don't reflect exactly audience. They just focus on task more than anything.
Yeah, so I have some guidance for that actually, which is each of the Fedora editions has a defined audience. So we should concentrate first on those audiences. And then second, we should look at audiences that are interested, that relate to the current Fedora objectives. Like right now, that's modularity. We had the student outreach objective, but that kind of fizzled out. So basically, modularity and future of operating system design is an audience. But then also, the Fedora server audience, those Fedora workstations defined as having certain classes of developers. They've got personas. So I think that's a good starting place for those. And then we can also look at more smaller targeted things, I would say kind of on a per request basis. So I think we should focus on the edition audiences, and then we can figure out what other audiences we would work on separately.
Oh, cool. So we can maybe share a issue in Pagure to work together?
Yeah, that seems like a good way to coordinate. Do you want me to file that? I can do it.
Well, we have one in the marketing Pagure. So
send me the link for that and we'll look at it. For those who don't know, Pagure is a GitHub-like thing that we use in Fedora. It is completely open source, and we use it basically, for code stuff and for issue tracking for a lot of the subprojects.
Yes, it's a great tool. Also, we are working in an education-focused campaign. And part of that is another point, support to the false student pack from ComOps, because we want to promote Fedora more in universities. That's more our focus there.
Okay, so for that, what I would really like to see is somebody who is passionate about that to find the Fedora University objective and kind of revive that, because that was Remy was working on that before he left to do other things, and it kind of died off. But I would really like, if it's going to be a focus, we should make that be a council level objective focus as well. So I don't know if that's marketing or ComOps or whatever. Do you know, is that mostly coming from ComOps, or where is the drive for that coming from?
Well, it started in both points at the same time. Okay. Because ComOps came with the FOSS student pack idea, and marketing came with the education-focused campaign, like trying to replicate the I Love Fedora, I Love Python campaign that was really successful. Kind of the same idea, but focusing on education, not in a programming language. So we have two ideas at the same time, maybe that we can share and work together.
Yeah, and that working together is basically getting the whole project on board with it is why we have the council process here. So I'll post to both of those mailing lists about that, and we'll see where we can go from there. All right, sorry, continue on.
No, that's okay. Well, with this, we are trying to reach universities, like I said before. And I think it's okay. In my personal experience in the university was when I meet Linux at first time. And I think normally students have a little more time to work on projects like Linux projects. And then, so we want to reach that target. I think it's a good target that we can have a lot of potential in students to work also in code or in marketing or in design or in whatever they want to help. Well, this is now the current state of marketing. We are working in several things. We have the ongoing projects that are going very well, like the Telegram channel. And the talking points that is taking a little too much time to work on it. But I think this is the big picture of the Subproject right now. For next, we have the 2007 goals. One point we were talking about, it was to increase the awareness of the Fedora release. Because a lot of people just say I use Fedora or they get only with the Fedora. I see it at FliSol. FliSol is a big event we have in Latin America where we do some installations with some speakings and everything, promoting the using of open source technologies. And each year I receive users that have Fedora 23, Fedora 22, Fedora 21. They just get with the DNF update or June update thing, and they don't take care of the new release. They just have a functional system and they don't want to update it, but they are they can face security issues and all the things that are new in Fedora that we are trying to push hard, and we want to help to make people to understand that why they should be care about the new releases.
So basically a mini campaign about Fedora bringing you the new things. I think this actually fits pretty well with our new mission statement, revised mission statement, where we talk about Fedora being an innovative platform. We can talk about the advantages of moving fast with Fedora and how Fedora helps you do that. Yeah.
Also, we want to help the other part of the projects and make people to be aware about how is the Fedora project. We are not talking just about the distro in this time. We want to make them know we will have a group of people that work with software specifics, like the SIG groups or the work groups, like ambassadors that they promote the distro. They are not working just in the distro, but making publicity, making events, helping people, doing support. Also, we have the Fedora diversity, where we want to make the distro more inclusive. Also, they have a sub-project inside Fedora Diversity called Fedora Women, where they want to bring more women into technologies and specific to Fedora distribution of Fedora Linux. I think the idea itself is just to make people know and understand that we have a lot of people working in Fedora, not just programmers, not only coders, people that make documentation, people that work to publicize this idea and make the project grow better.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to show that we have more than just one stereotypical job, especially because actually most of Fedora is not programming. The other things are actually more of the project than any programming is. But it's also important to note that we do have some awesome women engineers and other other people of color, people from all around the world who are doing hardcore engineering as well. I want to make sure we don't send the message that, oh, don't worry, Fedora has fluffy stuff as well, so people other than men can get involved. I'm going to make sure we stay open to all people being involved in all parts of the project.
Yeah, and I think it also is pretty cool because we are working with writers in the Fedora magazine that came from other distros. We have a former writer for the Full Circle magazine that is a non-official Ubuntu magazine. We have some tech, other tech blogs people writing in the magazine. And in the Telegram group, we are reaching a lot of diversity people. We have in terms of jobs or people that don't necessarily work with technology. For example, I was working or helping a guy from India that is a dentist. He used Fedora because he likes the idea of open source. And I think that is the main idea. We want to make people aware that Fedora is not only about the code. We are more here because the technology and how we can make the project to go through the better and new technologies. Well, working in the audience targets, we have identified for the first pass 4 main audience. We were developers, that is mostly all people that make code. And we separate cloud and container people because they use different technologies that people that just develop web pages or standalone systems. We identify also...
Are you putting cloud and containers as separate from each other or both as sort of new model computing?
No, a new model of computing. Just developers and cloud. Cloud and container just like the same people, but separate from developer itself.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, containers help bring the promise that cloud computing gave to people. So I could talk about that at length, but yeah, I agree. That's a special focus, especially for the Fedora Atomic work. All right.
Also, we have the DevOps admins. We came with a new role in the IT that is DevOps. That is basically people that can bring sysadmins and developers together to make to have a better communication between these two worlds that usually are separated but are together. I think the DevOps term is a little confusing yet because it's kind of new, but we identified a lot of people that is doing this. It's just like integrating new system into their old sysadmin job. As always, like we tell before, we have students, especially in college and university, people like audience to reach. I think there is a lot of potential there because we have people that is fresh and have energy to work in everything we can think about to use it. So
I agree. I think that's important, and I think all these things here, with the possible exception of the next bullet point, are very well represented in the edition target audiences. So I think we can put this in terms pretty nicely. Let's talk about regular users. What's a regular user?
Well, like a regular user, I'm talking about the people that really don't care about coding or about sysadmin, just the people that want to use mail, use a web browser, see a movie, listen to music. I don't know, maybe just type a fast document or something. Like the end user of, like, you can say, the people that just want to use their computing in a daily basis to browse the web. It's almost the issue we are facing here. Because normally we have a lot of flame war about you're a newbie, you don't know how to do that, and we don't want to exclude them. We live for that people.
I have some strong opinions here about this. I don't want to exclude people. I think Fedora is actually great for that use case, but I think for regular users, I like to make a distinction between users who don't want a computer. They want to do the things that a computer gives them and move on. They just want to do those tasks you described, and the operating system is not interesting at all. There's also a very loud online class of users that are basically computer enthusiasts, people who want to have a general purpose computer that they like to play with and customize a little bit. And those are and very different audiences for both. They're both kind of under the regular users case. They're not necessarily programmers or content creators, although they maybe tend more towards it, but kind of a power user sort of thing versus regular users maybe, although that's a kind of washed out 1980s term.
Yeah, a regular problem we are facing with this kind of end users is the problem with licensed software or licensed libraries. For example, we have a lot of people. I have a flavor with a guy because VLC is not in the main Fedora repositories. And this kind of thing needs to have a guideline to work with the people. How we say to the people why it is not here and why they can have it, or how they can have it into the distro. Why it is not in the main repositories, what are the legal issues. Explain it in common language, not in legal language, because I don't understand patents or licenses at all. But we need to have a build, a script to talk to these people.
All right, yeah, that makes sense to me. All right, thanks.
I think here is where Brian is going on. So Brian, are you there?
I am still here. Okay, so what we need to do here is talk about what we're going to be working with moving forward as far as messaging. This is not, and I should emphasize this, this is not talking about a mission statement for Fedora, the project. This is more of a set of core messaging around the actual software. Because one of the things that we need to do moving forward as a project is identify the reason or reasons why people should be using the Fedora software distribution. We've got a good mission statement for the project, but we haven't really gone full tilt towards building a core message around the Fedora software itself. And that comes in two stages. We need to work on building a core message. So if somebody comes to us and says, why should I use Fedora software? We should have a simple 25 to 50 word message, why, depending on the situation, of why they would want to use Fedora. What distinguishes it from what distinguishes it from everybody else? What aspects of it are useful for people in, just in a general broad sense. And then the second part of that, and ironically, probably we're going to have to work on this first, is to build targeted messages. Because the easiest way to do this would be to work on targeted whys for these three groups of people that are listed here in the slide. So developers, sysadmins, and students. We'll keep the regular users in mind, but that's not going to be our core target right now. Hopefully they'll just come along as we make things useful. But we want to focus on these three groups and build why statements. Why do developers want to use Fedora? Okay. What's our messaging around that? Why do sysadmins want to use it? Why do students want to use it? We find those 3 sets of core why values and statements, build messaging around those 3 groups of people. And then we can build, take that and hopefully aggregate that up into a single core message. And build that and have that ready at hand, because I think that's something that Fedora right now is missing. And when we can kind of get that simplified why out, I think that's going to make everybody's job a lot easier. And we can sort of focus on that moving forward.
I agree very much. Thank you.
And then secondly, a little bit separate from this is more of a logistical thing. One of the things that we need to sort of try to, and this will help with the whys as well, once we sort of get our core messaging down, we should be starting to work on a cadence with our content and our content production. And I'm recommending, that we build some sort of editorial calendar for Fedora Magazine, possibly even something that Community Blog can roll into as well. It doesn't have to be set in stone, but we should have a month of, here's a month of, let's talk about IDEs and developer, and SDKs, here's a month that we talk about containers. Here's a month that we talk about, virtualization. I mean, we can pick the topics, okay? And in those months, we try to find a concerted effort to, find 3 or 4 or 5 articles that would fit within that general theme. That does not mean that that's the only type of article that will go out during that month, because obviously, if somebody does something cool, we've got Flock coming up, or, there's a software release, we're still gonna post content about that on our outbound channels. But we should, try to integrate, certain themes and work them into the magazine content, and hopefully, get the word out to the community blogs and really the rest of the community, and just say, hey, if you feel like writing something about, cloud this month, this is our cloud theme month, we would love to see some content out there, and we'll be happy to share some social media love with you. And kind of do it like that, and people can participate, as they want to.
That sounds like that would fit very well with like ambassadors and meetups and things like that. So you could kind of have monthly Fedora meetups that match the monthly theme as well.
Exactly. And if we get really good at this, I mean, these will be early days, but if we get really good at this, we can also start building, federated meetup content and say, okay, this is I'm really dating myself, but there used to be like on PBS, and there was Romper Room when I was a little kid. Okay, and what this is, for those of you who are too young to even remember this, this was a show where you could, learn preschool lessons, on the television. It was a lot like Sesame Street, except it was more oriented towards a classroom style. And one of the things that you could do is, for like really like $5 or something like that, you could order a workbook that would be mailed to your home, and as a child you could follow along with the lessons. Yeah, thanks, Langdon. You could follow along with the lessons. The content was matching what was on the television show for that week or that month. We could do something like that with content moving forward for meetups. If we know ahead of time that, 3 months from now, the theme's going to be containers. And again, I'm just pulling topics out of the hat. We don't, we can figure this out later. We can maybe build a slideshow or 2 around containers, get them out to our ambassadors and say, hey, if you have a chance to be a part of a meetup, you're going to host one, you could be a part of one in your community. Here's something we've been talking about in Fedora. We're going to be talking about this all month. And you can point people to our content, and they would feed off of each other. So this would be the advantage of having a monthly editorial calendar. For now, focus really on content alone, but maybe in the future, working on presentation and meetup content.
Cool.
Eduard, do you want me to work on this one too?
Yes, please.
Okay, so channels, sorry, we're a little disorganized today, sorry. So talking about the channels, I've already mentioned some of them.
We're open source. This is pretty organized. I think we're doing all right.
Okay, well, you know. So the channels that the marketing group really wants to hit, we've already got the community blog, and we're doing okay on that. We're doing well on the Fedora magazine. They've spun off into their own group, so they're doing exceptionally well. We really feel that the areas that we need to improve upon would be increasing the cadence of content in the Fedora community blog, increasing, and I've been starting to do this last couple of weeks, ever since I got back from my last trip. I'm like on social media, I'm really trying to hunt down and identify more blogs that are out there in the community that revolve around Fedora. People are doing little how-tos, or this is my experience with Fedora, and they're generally positive, and I'm trying to throw as much social media at them as I can. The idea being that people hopefully will start getting some traffic from their content, and that'll inspire them to write more about Fedora if they're really interested in getting traffic to their blog. But those are areas. I think the Fedora magazine is doing very well. We basically have almost a daily set of new content, so that's in good shape.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's like my dream come true for Fedora magazine.
Right.
So congratulations. Thank you to everybody who's worked on that.
Right.
I basically, for a couple of years ago, I was doing a couple times a week thing, or once a week thing, and that was like the only thing there. And now I don't do anything, and it happens without me, which is like, that's the best.
Yeah, that's always good.
On the community blogs, I'm curious, so we have the Fedora Planet, which is a blog aggregator. Are you seeing Fedora related blogs showing up that are not on that planet? Should they be there, or is it kind of outgrown that model?
There's a very few. A lot of what I'm getting when I look through my feeds on a daily basis is coming from Fedora Planet. I mean, occasionally there'll be a new one out there. And I could probably get a little bit more coordinated. I should probably get more coordinated and get them on the planet and start identifying them. So that would be something that we can start doing as well. The other thing that social media, these are obvious channels that we're doing. I've already talked about how I'm increasing the cadence of social media to focus on that new content, trying to get it up and going. And then, I'm sorry, these are a little out of order. News media is definitely something we need to work on. We have to, this will be revolving around that core messaging. Once we get our core message out and our targeted messages out about why people should be using Fedora in which situations, I think then we should start working on, in 2017, a defined media plan and say, okay, yes, we're going to talk about our releases, but we really want to start talking to reporters, sitting down with them at events, making calls with them, and start really talking about these whys and try to get their attention back to Fedora. And again, not detracting from OpenSUSE or Ubuntu. That's not what we're about. But we do want to differentiate ourselves from the other distributions and remind people of how good Fedora is and how it will help them. So it will be messaging first, and then I think we should sit down and make a targeted media plan and actually make goals and say, let's see if we can try to get X amount of articles per month about Fedora that are not release related.
I would love that, and I would definitely love your help and advice as an ex-member of the press. I've been having a hard time sometimes getting the press to bite on Fedora-related suggestions, so any help you can provide there would be amazing.
Yeah, and this again gets into, yeah, there'll be why, the why messaging, and then something else I'll talk about in the next slide. The wiki is, I almost feel like this is not really, I mean, it's sort of part of our purview, some of the content and some of it isn't. The marketing parts of it, yes, Eduard has already identified and we've already discussed. There are parts of this that are aging out. I personally hate wikis with a passion that burns like the sun.
I think that is actually the official council position, is burn the wiki down. But you know, it takes a while. There's actually a lot of useful stuff there. And Edward, I definitely appreciate you cleaning up what is there. And we basically, I would like to reposition the Fedora wiki as this is a workspace kind of thing for people to, you know, hack on and exchange and do things, but it's not really for user-focused content, including contributor-focused content that's meant to have some polish and finality to it. So I would like to migrate all of that over to our future Git-based docs thing in the future when that unicorn is real.
Okay, and that's something, you know, I mean, that's something we've done on my team inside Red Hat. We've built a wiki-based, or I'm sorry, a Git-based, you know, site. As possible, we can share our expertise with that. And I think that, yeah, I think marketing should be well ready to work with the documentation side and build a new, more stable content platform moving forward. Next slide, please. The kind of content that we are working on, we do, so articles that we do now, and these show up on Fedora magazine.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Is there, Matt, I assume you're like the controller of things. Is there anything you can do to make it so that we see his slides rather than the glowing head?
Click on the Eduard icon at the bottom and it will affix it to the slide.
Yeah, and I have the live feed fixed to that one, so that should be what's going out in the live feed to everybody. So I think that should be all set.
Got it, thanks.
Yeah, okay. So content that we do already is features on software. We talk about the new features inside Fedora. You know, we talk about Wayland and all the other cool stuff that's coming in, and that's great. We do people features quite a bit. Charles Prophet does a pretty good series on, you know, how to use Fedora, things like that. Things that I think were one of the article categories that we're missing, and I really think this is going to help us with the messaging aspect of it, is talking about the case studies. This is something that we used to do when I was the community manager for the Overt project, and this is really helpful, where you actually go out, find users of Fedora, you know, in a given situations. Perhaps they're using it in a maker fair, or, you know, or in a university setting, or, you know, whatever. We find them and interview them and actually get an idea of how they're using Fedora, why they're using Fedora, you know, and what's good about it. And also, I find that case studies are better read if you're a little honest and say, well, what problems did they have? Because that makes it more honest for people. That also gives us an idea, you know, as developers and those who can actually fix these things. Oh, that's a real problem. Maybe we should start looking at that. You know, so case studies are an area of content that I definitely want to beef up for Fedora. I also think that we could do a lot more screencasts and tutorials. It is ridiculously easy to set up YouTube live broadcasts for streaming or recording anything with GTK desktop or something like that, and getting some screencasts out about how to do certain things. We should probably make a list of possible topic ideas, and we could even just make a nice detailed list of how-to topics, throw it out to the public and see who bites, and just get people to start sending in videos. And, you know, I can post them, or anybody, you know, with access can post them on the YouTube channel. We're not making good use of the YouTube channel right now. We could be doing better.
Yeah, I've been putting these just on my personal YouTube channel, but I could figure out how to put them somewhere shared.
Yeah.
The people
Right.
Right now,
have a full-on YouTube channel, so you know, we should probably coordinate afterwards. There's definitely some stuff on there that could probably go on the regular Fedora channel too.
Yeah, we can do that. We can also link to existing videos. I can link to yours as a play, like you know, and put them in on the Fedora channel to yours, Matt. So
Okay.
I think the Fedora channel is running by Justin. I'm not sure. Maybe we can ask him to have access to the Fedora channel account. And
we have access.
oh, okay. Well, also I want to point here. Sorry if I jump in, Brian. I have an idea I was talking about with some guys in marketing channel, in the IRC channel, for not only do a screencast, but also to release a podcast series.
Yeah, that would actually be good. That would be a good plan if we could get a list of topics and talk about that and figure out how often we would do that. We could make Matt drive into the office and get his fancy podcast room.
I am very willing to be interviewed in whatever on a regular podcast. I do not have the time and energy to drive a regular podcast, but I would be willing to be a regular guest.
And if you wanted someone who was actually entertaining, you could also interview me.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
There you go. We're all set. And again, for content, once we get the messaging set in place, we can build targeted marketing campaigns. Obviously, we've done this in the past with like Fedora Hearts, Python, but we can also figure out additional marketing campaigns to, you know, the developers, the students, and the sysadmins moving forward. Next slide, I think, Eduard, is this back to you?
Yeah, actually, we have some questions to you guys because since we are having some issues, like we say, for one of the better examples is with the KDE working group, how we can create more solid lines of communication between marketing and other Fedora groups, because we want to help everybody. I think there is an awesome job being done in several places, but not we can be everywhere to know about that. So how can we make a call to come to us if you want to publicize your work? Hello?
Anyone?
I didn't I followed that, but I didn't understand the question. What's the question?
What do we want?
I think how can we create more lines of communication between marketing and all other Fedora groups?
So it's too bad that Robert isn't here. Roby Duck is on the council and on the Fedora Ambassador Steering Committee, and is basically in charge of this new Mindshare initiative that we have in the council, which is basically exactly this specific problem. So this is a good question. I think we should probably save most of it for a time when he is able to make the meeting. And we're going to have some sessions at Flock about this specific thing as well, because I think it's a really important question.
Okay. Also, we normally have.
Wait, I have a quick question. Are we in the questions asking phase? Is this the last slide, or are there more slides after this?
No, just another one, just to question from you to us.
Okay.
And that's all. I think Bray have more idea about the next question.
Yeah, so moving forward, what we're kind of wondering about resources, and this is sort of a sticky question because we have a small team, And so we're being asked to do quite a bit as far as generating content and generating messages. And we've got a really solid core team of dedicated and very smart people. But we were wondering if we can get resources in terms of people power from the general Fedora project, if we could start making calls for participation, and if we are moving ahead with podcasts, can we put in some money for a budget for some decent microphones or something like that? Nothing high-end or super fancy, but just something that would sound a little bit better than a little webcam mic or something like that. But before we even get to that, is there a possibility of getting those types of resources moving forward? And if not, we'll just try to plan around it.
Other Brian, you want to take that, or I can say some things?
Other Brian is taking it.
Yeah, I can hear you. Apparently Matt couldn't.
I cannot hear other Brian. Which might mean other Brian isn't going into the feed. Can somebody repeat what Brian is saying?
Okay, Matt, we can hear
turn
him.
your mic volume up, I think.
Okay,
I think he's gone or something.
All right. Well, it's possible I'm talking over Brian, but I
you
can't.
are. Please wait.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, go.
I have no idea what Brian just said, and I think that's probably likely to be dead air in the recording. Can somebody summarize it?
Basically, Brian Exelbeard said that there are already such resources that are available within Fedora. There's actually even a Fedora microphone that's out in the group somewhere that could actually be used for podcasts. So he does also have some other materials that he wanted to share with us, but he doesn't have them with him. He's currently in Beijing. So I think this is probably a topic that we can have with him at a soon-to-be announced date.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing is basically in the budget process previously for the last couple of years, basically all the community budget had been allocated to the regional ambassadors specifically, and there wasn't anything for marketing in general. We have not allocated it that way this year. So and for future years, if there are requests for specific needs for a marketing campaign or things marketing needs in general, we can probably accommodate some of those, within reason. It's not like it's a gigantic budget, but there is some funding.
Okay, that's good. I mean, and we're not asking for the moon, but we are kind of wondering, if we can get some tools to help us out. I think also too,
let me add a comment there. So like what we're trying to do model there, right, is actually having people request money with an impact idea, right, and to try to make it so that the kind of money is distributed based on kind of impact to the project rather than kind of pre-allocated to just a set of groups. So please submit the request is basically what I think the what it boils down to.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, basically, the last question is just if we should plan a FAT or just attend the existing FAT to brainstorm all other groups. It's a continuation of the first question.
There's a big one at the end of the summer. We call it FLOC.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some stuff at Flock. I think it's possible Fedora Activity Day is warranted for this. I think marketing is obviously a very important activity. I think we would entertain the idea. Doing stuff at Flock is most economical, obviously, but if everybody can't get there, that makes it harder. We could also do a VFAD, like an online event where we kind of schedule everybody to be together on a certain day to work on something, but internet based. But a FAD's definitely a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, so I have another meeting at 10,
That's
so I'm
right.
running late. I was wondering, I would like to revisit the regular users question, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, that's fair. Right now, we've got open questions from any of you guys, anything you want to know from us.
So basically, I get really stressy when any kind of group focuses on regular users, because that's, first of all, a hugely broad category.
Feel free to put your video on back, everybody. I've got it back to that.
Oh, well, then I'll be busy. So basically, just first of all, that's not a persona, right? It is just everybody else, right? And so that's the first comment that I would make. The second I would make is that I continue to struggle with us putting resources into a group of people who will someday, it will be the year of the Linux desktop. I would much rather see us putting very focused effort on groups like developers, DevOps people, sysadmins, and to some extent students, although students, again, is not really a persona, right? That's just kind of a subset of regular user. So I really hope that we try to avoid them being a user group that we target, and instead let the regular users fall out of the other things, right? So, developers like to watch movies on their laptops. So it doesn't mean you don't want to have movie support, right? It just, if we focus it on the types of users we actually have and the types of users we're likely to grow into, if we get if we get some fall off from that group into, random other groups, that's great. But if we try to target them, all we do is split our resources on things that we can't actually allocate energy to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I think that's basically our official position in the council, unless anybody in the council wants to speak up and say they disagree. I'm pretty sure that that's everything we've been talking about in the last year or so in the council, or actually really basically since the 3 editions Fedora strategy. Like, that's the idea. There are other things we can do, but focusing is what's going to get us results.
yeah. And the persona, by the way, for education may not actually be the students. It might be the educators, if we can, do it.
That's great. Like, I would much rather see, computer science professors, right? Teaching open source into education, or it's computer science students, or it's, I actually think there would be a real value to targeting different schools call different things, but CIS students, right? The ones who are going to grow up to be sysadmins or project managers or that kind of stuff. I think we can do a lot of good for those kinds of people without splitting our focus into making sure my grandmother can use Fedora. Because the only way my grandmother is going to use Fedora, well, first of all, she'd have to be resurrected. But second, is if I directly support her anyway, right? So, or I get it onto her machine. They already have built-in IT support. It's called their grandkids.
My grandmother is much more likely to use Fedora than my grandfather, just for the record there.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I have a successful history with my father, because he worked with music, and he used to use the computer just to burn CDs to Fedora with K3V software, and to use Firefox, and he's so happy using a Linux operating system.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's actually only Fedora in my house. So my kids use it, my wife uses it, everybody uses it. The thing is, when they run into a problem, they ask me, right? Fedora didn't just fall off a truck and show up, right? I went around and said, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with Windows. I'm tired of dealing with whatever, I'm going to put Fedora on all these machines, and you can either use it or not use a computer. And luckily, seeing as I'm the only one who builds computers in my house, I can make that statement. But that's the opposite of marketing, right? In the sense of marketing is the goal, right? Is to get people who are not in your community, in a sense, to wander by and say, hey, I'm interested in joining this thing. So I think that's great if we get people falling off a truck and into Fedora. That's awesome. If we target it, I think we're going to be splitting resources that we can't afford.
No, and we're not really planning on targeting it in the year moving forward. That was not one of the groups that we wanted to do. I mean, we mentioned it, and maybe that could be something that sort of like, at the very most, maybe throw a little content their way. Like if we do an article about GIMP or something, that's not really a developer article or something like that. That's just somebody wanted to do an article about GIMP. That's going to go, so maybe it's not like regular users are targeted, but there's going to always be that segment of the content that's just going to kind of feed into that that group, not intentionally.
You take what you get, right? I mean, there's a difference between what's on the editorial calendar, as in the stuff that the marketing team is requesting people author, right, and requesting that we deliver content about, and whoever Paul Friels, I think, wrote something about music stuff, whatever, like a month or two ago, right? I mean, if somebody says, "Hey, I'm going to write an article about GIMP," great, publish it, right? I'm not saying block any of that. I'm just saying, we just don't want to put it on the editorial calendar and say, "Hey, we need this article written. Please go write this article."
Yeah, and right? I think, right, exactly. That's basically going to be it. The only exception would that be if there was a super fabulous version of GIMP, and we thought, well, maybe we should plug it or something. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be. We're not going to target that persona. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I'm glad that there is a good core functioning group for marketing right now. For a while, that was not the case, and it was kind of felt like things were falling apart. But then before that, there was a good group. So it seems like it kind of comes and goes. Is there a plan for bringing more people into the marketing group and making that feel sustainable?
That would be awesome. And if we could put our heads together and figure that out, that would be great. Because I mean, it's kind of ebbing and flowing. It seems to basically really ramp up around release time and then disappears afterwards. And I know people, a lot of people have day jobs and everything like that, and we kind of go. I think if we move, one of the things that Eduard can speak to this too, but in my opinion, one of the things that we could do to help settle this problem is to have this really focused messaging, in place, and then everybody can rally around that and play to their strengths, so to speak. Because right now, it feels like the group doesn't really have a solid core plan for itself other than get release announcements out.
Yeah, there is no plan, actually. And even I don't know how I just came through marketing. I just writing some articles in the magazine, and then I was doing marketing stuff. It's not like I planned to work with this. But yeah, we need to work on a strategy, because right now we are not doing it. So maybe this is a good point to create a ticket and work on it, because really we don't have a strategy to bring more people into marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's not an easy question. And the thing you said a while ago about bringing people into Fedora from backgrounds other than programming, I think this is a place where we can show, look, there's all this stuff that we need help with, and maybe this is in your skill set. This is a way you can really easily contribute.
Yeah, well, technically I was working just as ambassador, because I was used to organize events back in college. But yeah, the work in marketing is pretty interesting, even it's not that too much time consuming like people can think of. But a strategy, or I don't know even how you can tell people that work in marketing. Like I say, I just be here. I don't know how.
You guys have marketing stuff on the "What can I do for Fedora" site. There's a Git repository for that where you can feed suggestions into what can I do for Fedora.org, and you can say here's the marketing needs we have. It's a pretty nice marketing tool, I guess, for project contributors.
I'm going to ask a dumb question too. One of the things that I've kind of wondered about is what's the relationship between marketing and ambassadors? Because to me, that seems really like a good fit as far as coordinating efforts, really not one bossing the other around, but what historically has been that?
It has historically been completely disconnected. So I think the ComOps group was created as partly a way to connect those things. And so, now we have three things. So this Mindshare initiative that Roby Duck is working on is our maybe third or fourth attempt to try and figure out how to unify this better. I think in some ways, although obviously we don't sell anything, Ambassadors is our direct sales organization. That's going on boots on the ground, talking to people kind of thing. And then marketing, there should be a loop where feedback from the ambassadors comes back to marketing and back to the project through there. But then also the messaging you were talking about creating, every ambassador should know the core message. Every ambassador should be able to deliver the core message, and that should kind of be their focus as an ambassador. And I think that relationship hasn't been the case. I think it's been more of a when ambassadors need some slogan created or something like that, then they ask marketing for it, and that's not. I think we can definitely do better than that. So that's a kind of a council level goal for this next year. So yes, let's collaborate more on that.
Okay, get on that.
Yeah, we are solidly over time here, which actually I appreciate. There's a lot to talk about, and thank you very much, Eduard and Brian. This was a really good, helpful session. Thank you, and goodbye, everybody. See you next month. I'm not quite sure what the topic is yet. If you have a project in Fedora you would like to share with the council or share with the world, talk to me. Or if you are interested, in a specific section that you're not part of, let me know and we'll see what we can do to get people on here. Thank you. Goodbye.